I'll Stay Home for Christmas, the Song of Study, and Rethinking Regifting. This is coming up straight ahead on the Christmas Eve edition of the Use Your Head podcast. Merry Christmas wishes from stormy Dallas, Texas today on the Use Your Head podcast. Thunderstorms rumbling through. I apologize for any thunder you might hear, but we need the rain desperately. And of course, being Texas, it could either be frozen or not. Fortunately, not frozen this year. We've had a pretty mild winter temperature-wise. This is the Use Your Head podcast, Christmas Eve. Wishes to you. I'm John McLean. Delighted that you're taking this half hour to spend with the program where we dare to use our own heads. We take all the experience, all of the knowledge, perhaps some education, some, good worldly living and so forth. And all of these things inform how we think about the issues of the day. An alarming tendency of late is to just, find an expert on the cable news or whatever and just, say, well, that's what I think. And I don't think that's always a great idea. Being busy is one thing, but I think we got to be careful about not losing our ability to form our own opinions about things, given the facts and opinions at hand. That's what we do here on the show in kind of a fun way. We don't get super serious here. But it is a good exercise, and there is a serious aspect to it. So glad you're with us here. Found some interesting stories for this Christmas Eve edition. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and Happy Hanukkah, by the way. This is one of those rare years where Hanukkah begins at sundown tonight. Or actually tomorrow, rather, on Christmas Day this year, on the 25th, Hanukkah begins. So kind of a neat little crossover there. So to my many Jewish friends that I have, very happy and blessed Hanukkah to you as well. And Merry Christmas to one and all. And got a couple of I didn't want to saturate the show today with all Christmas-related stuff. Have an interesting article I found that's not really related to the season, but a couple of them are. And with that, let us delve right into the first one. I'm going to warn you right now, I'm about to sing I'll Stay Home for Christmas. That's the article that I found, the topic number one. I'll stay home for Christmas. And this is a little bit discouraging, but we'll kind of wrestle our way through it. This is from the Christian Broadcasting Network, written by Trey Goins-Phillips. And the article is entitled, How Many Americans Actually Go to Church During Christmas? New survey reveals, holiday attendance. At Christmas time, churches plan for larger crowds, but those preparations might not pan out this year, at least for some congregations across the country. A just-released survey from Lifeway Research found just under half of Americans, 47%, say they typically attend church services during the Christmas season, with 48% saying they don't, and 5% saying they are unsure of their holiday plans. The very name Christmas originates in the church's celebration of Jesus Christ's birth, explained Lifeway Research Executive Director Scott McConnell. In the mid-14th century, the words Christ's Mass were first merged as a single term for this celebration. He went on to state that while 90% of Americans do something to celebrate Christmas, fewer than half usually attend church at Christmas time today. Like with many things, the U.S. is sharply divided on holiday church attendance. Protestants, 57%, Catholics, 56%, and those from other religions, 53%, are much more likely than the religiously unaffiliated, 21%, to report usually attending a church service. The last group, those who hold to no religious conviction whatsoever, are most likely to say no, 71%, to attending a church service during Christmas time. Christians who already attend church services occasionally are unsurprisingly more likely to show up for services around this time of year. Believers who attend roughly once a week, 76%, and those who attend once or twice a month, 69%, are more inclined than those who rarely or never attend church services, 52%, to come during Christmas time. Interestingly, though, those who largely skip out on church during the holidays said they are simply awaiting an invitation. All right, time out. This article almost lost me because, for one thing, it was depressing me to read through this. But then I hit this, and this is interesting. This takes an interesting turn here. So I just wanted to, arouse your attention a little bit if you're zoning out. Going back to the article, interestingly, those who largely skip out on church during the holidays said they are simply awaiting an invitation. The majority, 56%, said they would likely attend a religious service if someone invited them during the Christmas season, including 17% who said they were very likely to respond affirmatively to an invitation. McConnell, however, warned a positive reply should never be what motivates Christians to invite non-believers to attend Christmas church services. Rather, believers should be motivated by the gospel message itself. All right, we'll stop right there. I thought that was interesting that there are people that are saying, listen, I'm just waiting for someone to ask me. I think that's interesting and maybe informative for those of us in the Christian faith. All right, let's use our heads here. All right, first of all, this is from the Christian Broadcasting Network. So, make of that what you will. But I think there's some interesting things to point out here. When I used my head, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, in a disclaimer, and if you don't know this, you're about to, I'm a devout Christian, all right, on Sunday and every day, okay? And I will tell you, especially during the holy days, the holy seasons of the year, Easter primarily, Christmas is another, there are very few forces that are going to keep me out of church, and not just once, but usually multiple times during those seasons. That's how I roll, okay? But even if you're not, all right, you may be one of this 21% that say they have no religious affiliation at all, or you may be a non-Christian or whatever, or you may be one of those Christians that show up, twice a year or what have you. Whatever the case, I think there's a lesson to be learned for all of us here, all right? And that's what I wanted to kind of draw out as I used my head. When we appropriate something, and let's say in this particular paradigm we're within right now, if we appropriate a tradition, okay, whatever it is, and of course we're talking about Christmas now, when we appropriate something like that, but we leave its original meaning, its purpose behind. In other words, we draw out the stuff we like, okay, which is a human thing to do. We can't expect the end result to be anything lasting. All right. In other words, when we remove an original purpose, an original inspiration from something, we can't expect anything to have lasting meaning. And in this case, all right, as the church, and I'm talking about the church universal here, has allowed herself to be diluted by the wider culture, people have lost what it was about in the first place. And so what I'm focusing on in this mound of statistics that the author presents here, and there's a lot, the thing that really strikes me as a Christian who not only goes to church, but looks forward to it, to every opportunity to participate in a worship setting. And I realize that puts me in the minority, and these statistics bear that out, since around half, it's kind of a halfway divided line here, of people that identify as Christians don't usually even show up during Christmas time. They're too busy or whatever. I wonder if one of the reasons for this is that the church herself, in an attempt to stay relevant, to stay cool, to stay cultural, to get the young people to come out, has allowed herself to be diluted of her original meaning. And that would explain why a lot of people are like going, why bother? Why bother? Just soon stay at home and watch Elf. Okay. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's part of our tradition too. We have a lot of movies we watch, a lot of non-church things that we do in our family to celebrate the season, and that's perfectly fine, but it should not replace the original purpose, the original celebrations. I'm going to be careful here not to go off on too much of a personal tangent, but I do love talking about my faith. And so if this is something that's going to bother you, you may want to click forward a few clicks, all right? But I would encourage you to hang with me here, because I'm not, this podcast is not about preaching the truth to you, what I believe to be the truth. All right. I may do one of those one of these years, and I'm kind of, inching toward that. And we'll talk about that later in the show, ironically, when we get to another topic. But I want us to use our heads and think about why. Christmas, it's no secret, has become an immensely commercial enterprise. And we talk about Black Friday. All right. Black Friday, if you don't know the meaning of that term, the day after Thanksgiving, it's really become kind of a black month now. I'm still seeing Black Friday ads, even this week, is the day of the year when most retailers actually finally get into the black. All right. They start turning a profit when the madness of the shopping season, the consumerism of this time of year, happens. All right. People rush out and they blow their budget buying stuff for people. Christmas presents, if you will. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I love giving gifts. Generosity is infectious. I've talked about that before, and I love that idea. And people are motivated to give based on various things, and that's fine. But what I want to point out here is, as we've allowed the culture, all right, and by culture, I'm talking about the secular world, to reach in and draw Christmas away from the church in many ways, is it any wonder that we've gotten to the point where we kind of got away from the reason we give the gifts to how much can we spend, and we got to make sure and spend the same amount on all the kids, or there's going to be a fight, and all these things that, you know what I'm talking about, because this infects everybody. And then wondering how we're going to pay for it all next year, which is certainly not what it's about. Is it any wonder that people are just going, hey, you know what? Church, it's the same every time. Why would I go? I think it's important in all aspects of life, when we look at something that the culture has appropriated from somewhere else, and we see it start to become more and more transparent, lose its body, lose its substance, if you will, I don't know that we should be all that surprised when we leave behind the reason that it started in the first place. And I hope that the Church Universal will find a way to recapture that and say, no, culture, this actually belongs to us, and we're going to keep this meaning for ourselves. Welcoming all, of course, but trying to recapture the original meaning and not allowing it to lose that. Because when the church does this, more people are going to start showing up because it'll mean something. I don't know. I hope that was a tough one. I made a bunch of notes thinking, how am I going to express my, what I think? Let me know how I did when you get a chance. I know you're busy. I know it's the Christmas season. John at useyourheadpodcast.com is the email address. I welcome any and all comers with whatever you want to say. John at useyourheadpodcast.com. Topic number 2. This was interesting. I called this the Song of Study, and I actually found something on USA Today that I thought was kind of interesting and sparked my interest for a special reason. I'll tell you about that. I'm going to read the article first. This comes to us from Kayla Jimenez from USA Today. Kayla says, music can help reduce the stress of studying. Can it help you learn, too? Here's what she says. December brings fall semester's final exams, and some students turn to music to help while they study. But is that a good idea? A September article from University of Maryland Global Campus touts the relaxing benefits of listening to the right music while studying. Studying can be stressful, and excessive anxiety can hinder learning and memory consolidation, wrote Phyllis Medina, Program Director of Psychology at University of Maryland Global Campus, in an email to USA Today. The right choice of music, such as instrumental or ambient music, can help block out distractions, improve concentration, and maintain attention during study sessions. But other psychology and music experts are less optimistic about its benefits, with studies often showing that it's usually better to avoid music while studying, as it can be more distracting than helpful. Is it better to study in silence or with music? Well, several pieces of peer-reviewed, I'm having a hard time reading today. It's Christmas. Let's start that again. Several pieces of peer-reviewed research show that music doesn't improve cognitive functions while studying or completing schoolwork for most people. That's especially true about songs with lyrics. Researchers of a 2023 study published in the Journal of Cognition found that music with lyrics hindered verbal memory, visual memory, and reading comprehension, while instrumental music did not credibly hinder or improve performance. Another 2017 study of 81 college students shows there were no main effects of background music or working memory capacity. All right, we'll stop right there. There's some other research in here that kind of says a lot of the same things, but the thing I globbed onto and I used my head is this lyric versus instrumental idea. And this was interesting for me personally, and here's why. I'm in grad school right now. In fact, I'm in seminary right now. And I will tell you that, many of you know that I have spent a number of years being an audiobook narrator and continue to do that. And I have found over the course of that piece of my vocation that I have a hard time reading to myself. I read much more effectively. I comprehend a lot more of what I read when I narrate, when I read aloud. And since I've studied grad school, which if you've ever, and I'm just now getting started, it's a lot of reading and a lot of writing and hardly any multiple choice tests. Thank goodness. I don't miss that part because that's undergrad was loaded with that. But this is a ton of reading. Like, for example, for one of my courses, I have to read 1,000 pages before I even show up. So, it's a lot of reading. And that's reminded me that when I read to myself, I am very easily distracted. And I think that's true for a lot of people. But I have a tendency to think that for me, it's even more so. I guess it's just one of those, learning, I'll say disability that I have. I don't know that it really officially is, but I find myself having, I watch other students who can sit there and, the TV may be going and they can read. And I saw this when I was in undergrad school. A lot of my roommates could do this. They could study with a number of distractions and they could retain very, very well by reading to themselves. I struggled. I almost have to be in a vacuum to be able to really focus in on reading a textbook or what have you. So this obviously, for multiple reasons personally, found this interesting, and I thought maybe you would as well. But lyrics versus instrumental, this is fascinating to me because when I listen to music, especially music that I'm familiar with, and let's face it, most of us listen to our own collections of music that we like, lyrics are poems, and they provide another level of meaning to the instrumental piece of a song, a popular song. And as such, I have a tendency to sing along with them. And then we do this, right? We sing in the car, we sing in the shower, we sing along with, in the elevator. It happens all the time. And that pulls our mind into that world of music. And that's kind of what I love about music, frankly, is there's a participation that's involved with that. But the thought of me sitting down to study a lesson, to read, okay, which is what a lot of my studying entails, is reading. It's very interesting. I can't conceive of the idea of putting on a set of headphones or putting in earbuds and studying and retaining. What I'm going to tell you, and this is the real-time piece of this podcast, I haven't tried it yet. I'm tempted to try it, and I might try it and may revisit this. But I will tell you right now, in my world, when it's time when I'm like, okay, I'm going to study, I need to get 50 pages in today, I will literally plan to be as isolated as possible. I have even gone so far, especially if there's stuff going on at the house, I will actually go inside my recording booth to give myself as much of a vacuum-like atmosphere because I need that total concentration when I'm going to read to myself. That's just me. I wish I had the ability to do it like I've seen some of my peers, but in any event, should I try it? Instrumental music. Well, first of all, music with lyrics, that's going to be a non-starter for me because as I just said, it's going to pull me off every time because I'm one of those sing-along guys. So no way to that. But instrumental, I like classical music a lot. And I get in these modes where I'll just want to listen to classical music, whether it's opera, which again, that's lyrical. So that would not I'm not going to do pagliacci while I sing while I study, because I just Freudian slip when I sing, because that's what I'm going to wind up doing. But instrumental music, especially classical, might that foster a good absorption, a good contemplative environment for cognition, for retaining? I don't know. The other piece, and I've heard some people suggest this, that they will actually put on their headphones and they will listen to some sort of white noise. Okay. Either something musical or just literally, this white noise, like kind of this, like an air conditioner running, or, how some people will have to have a fan to sleep at night. My late mother was that way. She could not sleep without a fan running. She needed that white noise. I don't know that I like that idea. But anyways, I use my head. This is interesting. And I think there are definitely some fascinating brain studies, and they're already happening. I may try it and see, kind of test myself on, did I get through the material? Did I have to do less, starting and stopping, going back and going, oh, you know what? I've lost the story. Got to go back into this paragraph and make sure I'm getting the concept. Or is it helping me kind of flow? I may try a little classical music. I've got a bunch of it, and see if that works. But I thought that was interesting. I'm very interested, by the way, in your thoughts. If you're a student or have been one and you've been down this road and maybe you found, music helps me study, I would love to hear about it. John@useyourheadpodcast.com is the email address. I may try this in some of my seminary stuff that I'm doing and see if it helps me or not, and I'll let you know. Very interesting. The Use Your Head podcast rolls on. Topic number 3 today, back to kind of a holiday type theme. Found this story from the Telegraph Herald. We're going to call it Rethinking Regifting. Here's what the article title is. Is it taboo to regift holiday gifts? 1 in 3 Americans say no. This comes to us from Katie Kelton, writing for the Telegraph Herald through bankrate.com. Here's what Katie says. From toys to toaster ovens, regifting has become the new normal for some people. 1 in 3 Americans say regifting holiday gifts is acceptable. Still, regifting has traditionally been considered tacky. So what should we do this holiday season? To get the truth about gift giving, I, Katie says, went to my personal etiquette expert, my mom, Betsy Kelton. I haven't regifted because I worry people wouldn't like it, she says, but I have no problem with it whatsoever and think we all should do it. My mom also adds that she would happily take someone's regift if they thought it suited her. According to Bankrate's 2024 Financial Taboos Survey, that's interesting, isn't it? They're doing a financial taboos survey. The article says this: 1 in 3 Americans think regifting holiday gifts is an acceptable practice. That's more than the people who think money is a normal discussion for the holidays. What does that say? That's more than the people who think money is a normal discussion for the holidays, 14%, or have asked for financial assistance at a holiday gathering, only 9%. 30% of Americans have also regifted something they received as a holiday gift. If you've gotten a gift that you don't love or need, but know someone who would, don't shy away from passing it along. You're in good company. I asked my colleagues, if you've regifted something, what was it? As it turns out, my teammates at Bankrate are no strangers to regifting. Bené Wilson, lead writer, says she was given a fancy toaster oven, but already had one she liked. So she regifted it to someone she knew would appreciate it. India Davis, editor, says she regifted a puzzle from one friend to another. It was okay because the puzzle wasn't gifted as a super sentimental gift, she explains. It was made better that the two friends don't know each other, saves from awkward convos. Then there's the topic of kids' toys, the growing pile of plastic, plushies, and books that come from well-meaning friends and family. Ryan Flanagan, writer, says his son received several repeat toys and things he wasn't interested in playing with for his birthday. We opted to give them to a toy drive instead, Flanagan says. Regifting. Very, very interesting. When I used my head here, look, first of all, let's just get the cat out of the bag. I have regifted. So has my wife. I never really thought it was that tough of a question. And, maybe that's because I don't have any etiquette or I'm some sort of, rube or something. I don't think so. And here's why, as I use my head when I read this article. What is gifting really about? I think we have to begin there. Because when we do, I think the question becomes pretty clear. And that's kind of where I go all the time. What is gifting about? Early in the show today, we talked about, the commercialization, the consumerism of Christmas and how the culture is kind of appropriated what is actually quite sacred season of the Christian year and, turned it into a feeding frenzy and of such. And I think that some of that comes into our concept of gift giving. I'm not going to say we should throw etiquette out the window or social norms or mores or anything like that. Of course, we live in a society and we should participate in it. However, what is gifting really about? What motivates one to give a gift, whether it's Christmas or maybe it's anniversary, birthday, or just 'cause? Those are the best gifts, by the way. When we begin there, I think that regifting becomes a pretty simple question. Gifting is solely a matter of the heart, isn't it? I mean, when we buy a gift for someone, do we think, is it a financial decision? And I guess maybe there's times where maybe we're at a store shopping for something else entirely, and we see that sweater that Aunt so-and-so would absolutely love. I can see her wearing this. This is amazing, and it happens to be 75% off, so I'm going to buy her a gift. I don't see that as a financial motivation because, again, we start with Aunt so-and-so would love this. Gifting is solely a matter of the heart, isn't it? Otherwise, it's just buying. And that's a very different thing and not necessarily bad, but it's not the same as gifting. Here's the facts. And as we unwrap stuff tonight or tomorrow, depending on your tradition and how you do it in your family, we're going to wind up with what? A garbage sack full of paper and ribbons and bows. Save the bows. We always had to save the bows if they weren't 3 or 4 years old and past there. We always saved the bows. But we're going to have a pile of paper and probably some boxes. And then we're going to have the stuff, right? Everybody has their little pile of presents next to their chair or whatever that they're going to take home with them. It's stuff. It's just stuff. Okay? And while much of it was bought with the thought of love and perhaps even some utility, in other words, they need this toaster oven, or they really would love this jacket, or whatever it is, or maybe it came off of a kid's list. They circled it in the catalog. Well, I guess we don't have catalogs anymore. They made a gift list on their Amazon or whatever. Whatever the case is, we got stuff. We're going to take that stuff home, and probably in a number of years, especially for kids, it could be a number of months, that stuff is going to become something else to store, or it's going to wear out, or it'll be replaced, or it will be donated, which is another way of kind of regifting it. The point is, stuff is just stuff. Now, is this idea countercultural? Absolutely. All right. We live, especially in America, in a consumerist culture. There is no denying that. And again, I'm not against that necessarily, because when we buy gifts, we provide retailers with profits. They're in the black finally. And you know what? That makes jobs and that enables people to provide for their families. It's important. It's how the economy works. But when we talk about kind of the ethos of gifting, and whether regifting is tacky or poor etiquette or what have you, or rude or wrong, if the regifting comes from the heart, how can it be wrong? If I gave a gift to someone and say I really missed the mark, I thought they'd really love it and they really don't, or I didn't realize they already had one that they liked, in the case of the toaster oven example, and I found out that they gave that to someone else who needed it, loved it, would love it more than me, I would honestly be totally fine with that. Indeed, I would be blessed by that. Because to me, that's another form of this idea of paying it forward, which is a beautiful thing. And I love how that's caught on in certain parts of our culture, people paying it forward. The whole, hey, listen, I want to pay for my coffee and I want to go ahead and get the car behind me. And don't tell them my name. Just that whole pay it forward idea, which is a beautiful thing. And to me, regifting is like that. I don't think it's tacky at all if it comes from the heart, but all gifting should, because that's how gifting should be done. So re-gift and do it from the heart. Do it with a heart of love and gratitude for what we have. Look, however you celebrate this time of year or whether you even do, I wish you a very Merry Christmas anyway, from the heart. Thanks for listening. Our time is done. We will have a New Year's Eve episode next week. I got some things to say about that. You won't want to miss it. Thank you very much. Tell a friend about the podcast, and we'll see you next time. I'm John. Merry Christmas, and bye-bye.